Now, investigative reporter Vicki Ward. Her latest piece is in the Highline magazine at Huffington Post entitled "The Blow It All Up Billionaires," and it looks into Trump campaign mega donor Rebecca Mercer. Vicki writes in part this: if Trump was an unexpected victor, the Mercers were unexpected kingmakers. More established names in Republican politics, such as the Kochs and Paul Singer, had sat out the general election, but the Mercers had committed millions of dollars to a campaign that often seemed beyond salvaging. That support partly explains how Rebecca secured a spot on the executive committee of the Trump transition team. Before this point, Rebecca's resume had consisted of a brief run trading stocks and bonds, including at her father's hedge fund, a longer stint running her family's foundation, and along with her two sisters, the management of an online gourmet cookie shop. Now she was compiling lists of potential candidates for a host of official positions, the foot soldiers who would remake or unmake the United States government in Trump's image. And Vicki joins us now. Wow. Where do we begin?
I want to go home and take a shower.
I know.
It gets worse.
Right.
All right, take it. So how does it get worse? Let's go right to the point.
Okay, so right to the point. So the Rebecca Mercer is a unprecedented kind of mega donor for several reasons. One, most mega donors have huge businesses of their own that they need to run, so they haven't got the time to sit around on presidential transition teams pushing for their candidates.
Which one is Rebecca on camera right now?
She's on the left. The tall with the
Okay,
she always has
got it.
glasses, often with diamond studs in them. So most of them don't have the time to be reaching out to put people into positions in government and fight for people who follow the Mercer agenda, perhaps much more closely than the Trump agenda. I'm thinking in particular of John Bolton, and she was furious when John Bolton did not get a job in the current administration, because the Mercers and the Boltons have, commercial ties and all sorts of other things. But the even more sort of interesting and perhaps dangerous thing about Rebecca Mercer is that she didn't just want to put in her team into the government and use her money to do so. She wanted to blow up the system, and she wanted to do that through forming an outside group that she would control through this vehicle, this data science organization, Cambridge Analytica, which, unlike all the other data groups that work for the Americans, they are all affiliated with either the Republican or the Democratic parties. This group is originally, they're British originally. They're not affiliated with either party. The Mercers own all their data. So in theory, she could, if they had been allowed to be the only outside group, they weren't in the end. It sort of blew up in her face. She could have caused a wedge between what she wanted to push, her agenda, and the president's, and the president.
Nick.
So the question, Vicki, I've covered the Mercers for a couple of years now, and the big mystery that everybody feels about them is, what do they really believe, right? So most donors, their policy passions are pretty evident. Fewer taxes, smaller government. So what did you learn in your reporting about their core beliefs?
They're obviously extremely far right, and yet you can't neatly tie them up. First of all, socially, they don't fit in. I mean, I have this great anecdote where Bob Mercer is in a meeting with Sheldon Adelson, and Sheldon says, well, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? And Bob Mercer says, listen, I don't care who you know, I don't want to know, I'm not interested in any of that. They've supported candidates. I mean, they've told people they would rather have a Democrat in place of Susan Collins. They've run the first time after Citizens United was passed and they could test their money, they backed a doctor who, has collected vials and vials and vials of urine in the belief that it elongates life. The candidate they ran against, John McCain, held a town hall to discuss this, chemtrails conspiracy theory.
Yay, Citizens United.
It's all down to Citizens United. The Mercers could not exist had Citizens United not passed that decision.
Making me very nervous. All right, Vicki Ward.
I should be.